You never truly know the one who sleeps beside you until the rain begins to fall. In the quiet village of Umuaka, stories lived longer than people, and in one corner of that village, under the old palm tree by the bend in the river, lived Chuka and Amara, a couple whose love once made women envious and men respectful. Chuka was the kind of man who let his actions speak. He built his house by hand, tilled the land each season without fail, and left gifts of palm wine and cola nuts at his elders' doors. He didn't raise his voice, didn't chase after rumors. His calm was both his strength and his mystery. Amara, on the other hand, was a flame. She laughed from her belly, dressed in the brightest wrappers, and had a face that could pause time. Even the village drummers admitted, when Amara danced, the spirits stopped to watch. They had been married 5 years, no children but no sorrow either. Chuka was content. Amara was changing. It started subtly. One day she began waking up before dawn, applying subtle makeup, something she hadn't done in years. She claimed it was for the market. Chuka nodded. Then came the new earrings, new slippers, a new perfume, strong, sweet, foreign. "A gift from Ngozi," she said once. But when Ngozi was asked, she only shrugged. Women whispered, men joked. But Chuka? Chuka watched. He would sit on his stool in the evening, beneath the mango tree, carving his small wooden dolls, one every night, humming softly to himself. He asked no questions, not yet. But the rain has a way of drawing out truth. It was the week of the early floods. The skies had been gray for days, the air heavy with something unsaid. That evening, thunder rolled far in the distance. Most stayed home. But Amara? She left. "Just fetching groundnut from Mazi's wife," she said. "I won't be long." Chuka nodded. "Don't slip," he said, and handed her a wrapper to shield her from the storm. Hours passed. The rain poured harder. Lightning flashed, not angry but questioning, and still. Amara did not return. It was an old woman named Mama Oji who first whispered it. She went into the bush path with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, skin like river clay. From away, she was laughing. When the neighbor repeated it the next morning, Chuka only smiled. But it wasn't joy. It was that strange, dangerous kind of smile, the one carved into the masks of masquerades during Igbo festivals, cold, still, knowing. That night, Amara returned, barefoot and drenched. She didn't look surprised to see him waiting. "You're back late," he said calmly. She chuckled, shaking off her wrapper. "That woman kept talking and talking. Her husband came back from Enugu. You know how gossip goes." Chuka only nodded. "I cooked yam. There's still soup." She paused. "You cooked?" "You are my wife," he said. "Why would I not feed you?" She smiled, uncertain. Something in his tone didn't sit right, but she let it pass. That night, they lay together under their raffia mat, the rain still falling gently outside. Amara snored. Chuka didn't sleep. He simply turned to face the wall and under his breath whispered, "The rain has started. Let the truth wash over us." The worst lies are not the ones told to your face, but the ones folded beneath your bed. After that stormy night, everything felt quiet. But it wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet. It was the kind of silence that stretches too long, the kind that tightens your skin, the kind that whispers, "Something is not right." Amara returned to her routines. She washed clothes earlier in the day. She laughed louder at things that weren't funny. She called Chuka my husband in front of others more often, almost performatively. She kissed his cheek in public, something she hadn't done since their first year of marriage. To outsiders, she was a changed woman, loving, submissive, reconnected. But inside their hut, something had shifted. She didn't look Chuka in the eye when speaking. He didn't touch her when she passed him water. The warmth had not disappeared. It had gone into hiding, and still, Chuka said nothing. He carved. Every night one new doll, always the same size. Some had lines for eyes, others had cracks on the chest. He never explained why. No one asked. Then came the morning everything changed. It was a Tuesday, the village market day. Amara had left early, claiming she'd be helping Ngozi sell spices. Chuka, alone in the hut, began sweeping. A habit, one passed down by his mother. A clean house is the one thing you can control when the world becomes dirty. As he pulled the mat away from the floor to sweep under it, he noticed something folded flat and carefully hidden between the reed layers. A letter, neatly written, slightly scented, in red ink. He unfolded it slowly. The first words hit him like the final strike of a drum at a funeral. My heart, I dream of our escape every night. This place, this husband of yours, it cages your light. Come to the river bend this Friday. As always, I will wait. It was signed with a simple O, not a name, just a letter. But Chuka knew. He didn't need a name. He folded the paper back exactly as he found it, pressed it flat, slid it beneath the mat again. Then he knelt, not to pray, but to think. His fingers gripped the dirt floor for a long moment. He looked up and stared at the low roof of the hut, then whispered, Friday. Let the river speak. That evening, when Amara returned, she smiled more than usual. She brought Chuka roasted corn and palm wine. Mazi gave me extra today. I told him it was your birthday. She lied with ease. Chuka chuckled. Then I am older now. I should thank you. Amara beamed. But Chuka's eyes didn't meet hers. He looked beyond her, past her smile, into the space where guilt grows silently. That night, Amara kissed him, not with passion, but with duty. They lay together, her arm around him. She fell asleep first. He stayed awake, staring at the roof again, the wood above him, the same he had chopped 5 years ago with his bare hands. He thought of her laugh, her lies, her feet walking to another man, her heart drifting further with each step. And then, the dolls. He stood up quietly, walked outside, picked up the one he carved last night, the one with no eyes. He placed it under the mango tree and said, Let her path blind her before it buries her. Friday is approaching. The meeting at the river is set. Chuka knows, but Amara doesn't know that he knows. The silence before the storm is thick. Sometimes the loudest screams are the ones hidden behind drums and dancing feet. The annual Ofala festival arrived with thunder in the sky and music in the ground. For the people of Umuwaka, it wasn't just celebration, it was identity. The village came alive with color, masquerades, and tales passed down through fire and voice. The elders wore white chalk on their foreheads, the young adorned their wrists with cowries and brass. And Amara, she wore blue, deep blue, the wrapper with golden eagles Chuka had gifted her 2 years ago when she had fallen ill. Her eyes sparkled, her lips shimmered, and her anklets rang like a warning bell no one paid attention to. That morning, as Chuka finished sharpening his machete beside the yam barn, Amara appeared behind him. Are you not coming to the square? She asked, smiling. Chuka looked at her, his eyes slow and unremarable. I will come, he said, when the masks begin to speak. She chuckled and walked away, hips swaying with a rhythm that didn't match her footsteps, like she was already dancing to another man's drum. The village square was thunder. Drums pounded, children screamed in delight. Elderly men sipped palm wine under the thatched pavilions, nodding as the masquerade spun and stomped. Amara danced. She danced like a woman with no secrets, like guilt had been washed away with her morning bath. She twirled under the palm trees, her laughter echoing like a spell. She flirted with glances, one to Chuka, who had now arrived and stood silently beneath a tree. One glance to a stranger, a tall man, with clay-colored skin and sandals too clean to be from the village. They did not speak. But sometimes eyes say more than mouths can dare. The sun dipped, masquerades bowed, elders clapped. The spirits had been honored. One by one, the villagers drifted home, laughter still trailing in the wind. But Amara did not come home. Not after sunset, not after moonrise. By midnight, Chuka was still outside, sitting on a low stool with a lantern beside him, carving another doll. This one with a crack across the heart. The neighbors noticed the empty hut. The whispers began. By dawn, a search party had formed. Young men beat the bush paths with sticks. Women cried into their wrappers. The village priest burned incense and tossed kola nuts into the fire. At the river bend, they found something. A torn piece of blue fabric, her wrapper, a broken anklet in the reeds, and one footprint, then nothing. No blood, no body. Just the cold flow of the river, moving slowly, like it knew more than it would ever tell. The village went quiet. The drums stopped that day. And when someone finally asked Chuka, "Where is your wife?" he only said, "She left, perhaps to dance in another village." The tone was calm, but the silence that followed it, loud. That night, Chuka placed a new doll beneath the mango tree. This one was faceless. Village reaction. Some blamed the gods. Some said she was taken by spirits. Others believed she ran off with her secret lover. But the truth? It flowed quietly, like the river she vanished into. Sight can be fooled, but hearing remembers everything the wind dares to whisper. 3 days had passed since Amara vanished. The drums were still. The laughter of the village children felt thinner. Even the birds that usually chirped from the iroko trees in the early hours seemed hesitant to speak. And Chuka? He was unchanged. Every morning he rose before the sun, swept the compound, tied his wrapper with precision, and headed to his yam mound. He greeted no one unless greeted first. He spoke only when necessary. His machete glimmered under the sun like nothing was wrong. But the villagers were watching him now, not with pity, but with unease. A man whose wife had disappeared without a trace, yet wore no grief on his face. They whispered behind hands, "He's too calm. Do you think he—" Maybe it was the gods. Or the river. It's always the river. But not everyone was afraid to speak. There was one woman, Mama Ifeoma, the oldest living soul in Umuaka. She had been blind for 20 years, but her hearing was sharper than a spear. She lived in a hut at the far end of the village, near the edge of the forest, where silence gathers like smoke. On the 4th night, she called for an audience, not just anyone, the elders and Chuka. They gathered around her fire-lit hut, shadows dancing across the mud walls. Her face was wrinkled like folded cloth, but her voice was strong. She sat on a stool carved from iroko wood, fingers laced in her lap. "I did not see what happened that night," she said, "but I heard everything." They leaned in. The fire crackled. "I heard her anklets, light, then heavy, first playful, then rushed. I heard a second pair of feet, heavier, quieter, no anklets. Then the sound of brush moving like someone hiding. I heard Amara whisper something. Then silence." She paused. Even the wind seemed to wait. Then a scream, not pain, surprise, sharp, cut short. And I swear by the gods who let me breathe, I heard a voice, calm, male. It said one word. "What word?" an elder asked. She lifted her chin. "Forgiven," gasps. One man stood. "Are you saying Chuka?" Mama Ifeoma raised her hand. "I am saying, not all forgiveness comes from peace. Some forgiveness comes with a price." Chuka said nothing. He didn't flinch, didn't defend himself. He only looked into the fire like it held all the answers he needed. An elder cleared his throat. "Do you deny anything?" Chuka looked up. "I have forgiven my wife," he said softly. "What more do you need?" No anger, no tears, just silence and control. and that was what terrified them most. The village shifted that night. Some villagers believed Chuka was innocent, a man too hurt to cry. Others thought he was a man who had turned forgiveness into judgment. And the river? It still flowed, quiet, smooth, indifferent, but many began avoiding it after dark. That week, Chuka carved no dolls. He just sat under the mango tree each evening, staring into the bush path where Amara once returned from, humming an old tune, the same one he sang when he first proposed to her, back when their love was new and untested. But now, it had been tested, and something had snapped. Some stories don't end with a scream. They end with a silence too heavy to carry. 3 weeks had passed since Amara disappeared, and still no trace of her had been found. No bones, no cloth, no final breath whispered by the riverbank. The village had moved on. At least, they pretended to. But whispers still lingered like smoke in closed huts. Children were told not to wander near the water after sunset. Women avoided eye contact with Chuka, and the men, well, even they lowered their voices when he passed. But Chuka remained steady. He farmed, he swept, he even sang on occasion. Only the mango tree at the edge of his compound remained unchanged. Under it, a growing row of wooden dolls. One every day since the night Amara vanished, some with closed eyes, some with broken mouths, some with no hearts carved at all. Then came the traveler, a tall man from a neighboring village covered in red dust and stories. He arrived one market day and asked for water. As he rested by the river, he saw something strange caught in the reeds. A necklace, glinting gold, wrapped tightly around a wooden carving, its eyes burned shut. He brought it to the village chief, thinking it was just lost jewelry. But the chief paled. He called the elders. He called Mama Ifeoma. And hesitantly, he called Chuka. When the doll was placed before them, the entire village stood still. It was Amara's necklace. And the doll? It looked just like her. The cheekbones, the sharp nose, even the anklets carved onto its tiny wooden feet. The confrontation. The chief turned to Chuka, voice shaking. "Did you carve this?" Chuka stared at it for a long time, then said, "I carve many things. The river takes what it wants." The chief pressed again. "Why was it wrapped in her necklace?" Chuka's voice lowered. "Because she left it there." The fire popped. A bird screeched from the trees above. No one dared breathe. "You told us you forgave her," someone whispered. Chuka nodded. "I did. But forgiveness doesn't mean keeping what poisons your soul. It means letting it go, even if it drowns." That night, no one spoke to Chuka. No one came to his hut. Even the elders refused to decide if he was guilty or not. Because how do you punish a man who never raised his hand, but might have guided something else? The river became the only judge, and it never told its secrets. The final carving. The next day, Chuka placed one last doll under the mango tree. This one had no eyes, no mouth, and no heart. Then he packed his few belongings, left a gourd of palm wine at the base of the tree, and walked into the bush. He was never seen again. Legacy of the river. To this day, villagers say if you walk by the river at night, you might hear anklets, just briefly. And if you stand still long enough, you might see a small wooden doll float by, face cracked, wrapped in gold. Some say it's a warning. Others say it's a story still unfolding. But everyone agrees on one thing. You may betray a man's heart, but never his silence. And that, dear listener, is the story of Chuka and Amara, a tale of love twisted by lies, of silence that speaks louder than rage, and of forgiveness that flowed straight into the river.